Ballad of the Nameless Traveler by Tomek Piorkowski, a fantasy epic in rhyme. Text copyright Tomek Piorkowski 2012. Part 1. Far away, in a place of inclement clime, a lady was fearful once upon a time. She was the most beautiful girl of her village, so said all the workers, working their tillage. Her eyes were deep and full of flair, she walked about with a graceful air, her hair tumbled down in luxurious curls. She was the envy of all the village girls. She was the most charming girl that could be. Even her name was pretty. Annabel Lee. But one day she walked with a nervous pace, with the saddened look of a downcast face. The villagers all came on the double, to find out from her what was the trouble. They asked her the meaning of all of her dread, so she came to explain, and this is what she said. Last night, as I lay, oh so gently napping, I awoke to the sound of a peculiar rapping. I stood up, surprised at the sound of this tapping, so I went investigate to see what was happening. I walked about the expanse of my hut, only to see my windows all shut. My door was locked, my home was secure, all was unbroken. There was no sign of forced entry, not even a token. Then there suddenly came a coughing sound. In panic and fear, I spun right around, to see that behind me there was no other than the shadowy figure of a frightening man. I cried out, "How? How did you come to come into my house in the dark of the night?" And he opened his two eyes. His two eyes glowed bright. They shone in the dark with supernatural light. His skin was as pale as the color of milk. I think that his clothes were made of red silk. His clothes and his bearing were of a nobleman, but I knew in horror that this was no human. He then said to me, "To answer your question, for your mind's intellectual digestion, I came right down your chimney, down your dirty, narrow chimney. But as you can see, I happen to be too big and too clean to have come down your chimney. So you probably think that my story is too flimsy, for sooty I should be, coming down the chute, and squashed and crushed and distorted to boot. But I did not come down here in the form of a man. I tell you that I came in a form none other than that of a bat, a winged bat. What do you think of that?" I was scared after all that he said. I feared that I was as good as dead. "Air and earth," I cried, "water and fire, down my stark chimney has come a vampire. Oh, my father, late father, how I wish that now you were still alive and with me somehow. Oh, my brothers, my 3 brothers, where are you? Still in the neighboring village, not yet due. And my dear mother died when I was born. Now I face my death, alone and forlorn. I entertain no hopes, although I do crave, that I be buried right by my parents' grave." Then the pale vampire laughed in the dark, his 2 long incisors glinting so stark. "I am not here," he said, "to put you in the mud, nor am I here to kill you and feast on your blood. As much as you fear becoming an undead's dish, I am here only to express my father's wish. I am the son of Count Leicester, my name is Dundee. Long has my father's eye been on you, Annabel Lee. Not far from here is the Castle Astor, of which my father is noble master. He is a powerful vampire lord, undefeated by enemy sword. He is admired, you will find, that he is a hero to our kind. But some time ago the noble Count Leicester was struck by a familial disaster, for his wife, my mother, was struck in the heart with a stake. Thus did a vile vampire hunter my mother from me take. But that is a story. That is rather gory, and I would think that you would not like to hear it all, for I have such good news, not fit for a dreadful pall. The noble Count Leicester, the fearsome spellcaster, has spent so many lonely nights, yes, too many lonely nights, and so he has decided to no longer tarry. He is pleased to announce that he will remarry, and that he will keep close by his side a beautiful lady he'll take for a bride. Now, I would expect that your sweet bosom shall swell with pride, for my father has chosen you to be his vampire bride." I was in shock. My hair was standing on end. It felt like my mind would drive over a bend. I asked of him, "But how can it be that he comes specifically for me? Aren't there pretty girls, both living and undead, who would love to grace a good vampire's homestead? I'm sure that I am quite unsuitable. I'm really rather disreputable. And to be the wife of a vampire lord, that certainly doesn't strike the right chord. I waved my hands and shook my head, hoping that he would listen to what I said. But though I pleaded, though I cried, he brushed all of my complaints aside. What you say is patently untrue. You evidently don't have a clue about how, while you would go prancing in the meadows, my father was watching you from deep in the shadows. He would even dare to go out in the sunlight, for the chance to catch a glimpse, just a little sight, or else at times he would sit and listen in the night, for the chance to hear the sound of your laughter's delight, carried along the drifting breeze of the evening air. When he first saw you, my father thought you the most fair. At the very first sight of you, Count Laster fell in love with each of your gem-like eyes, with each foot shaped like a dove, with each of your gentle hands, with each hair in your tresses, with your body that hauntingly lingers in your dresses. He sits in his castle, his heart for you pining. He's inconsolable, he's not even dining, and his health has begun to deteriorate, which tonics fail to even ameliorate. So dearly does he wish to make you his mate, so dearly would he bind you to his fate. Rejoice, 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 Annabel Lee, for no longer human shall you have to be. With a single bite, all will be right, and your blood and his blood will mingle. You will barely feel even a tingle, and so with the wedding kiss from my father, his teeth shall sink and you'll become no other than a vampire like us. Yes, a vampire like us. You will learn to drink blood like you now drink wine. In the nights you shall wake, your dresses will be fine. You shall dance as a bat in the light of the moon. You shall rest in your coffin in the light of the noon. And the greatest thing of all, that you will celebrate at every ball, is that from the position of a lowly brat, you have been elevated and made aristocrat. This said Dundee, but though his voice proclaimed that I should rejoice, in my frightened heart despair was the only thing it could bear. Overwhelmed by fears, I broke into tears. But who will find me when I go? And my brothers won't even know where I've gone to, and so I'll be sorry, and they will be then consumed with worry. Then Dundee tried to smile warmly. The effect was rather ghastly. And then he told me, "Ah, no, but you see, my father is not heartless and hardly even tactless. You see, he spoke that you would react so, and he told me that I should let you know that he shall wait a day. Yes, yes, that's right, a day, to pack all your things and to say your goodbyes, to arrange your affairs and to sigh all your sighs, so that you are not in deep sorrow when you go to his arms tomorrow. You see how my father is wise, you won't my dear father despise. Now it is time for me to go. I go to let my father know that I have given his proposal, to which you shall not give refusal. For that would make him quite mad, and that would turn out quite bad. Time to fly, and so I hope you shall give tell, a fond adieu and a goodly farewell. But I wasn't in any state in order to tell this fond adieu nor that goodly farewell, for right there, standing on the mat, horrid Dundee turned right into a bat. Then he flapped his way into my fireplace. Then he went up my chimney out into space, leaving me feeling hopeless, forsaken. For I am as good as taken. For who can fight a vampire's might? And this is no ordinary being of the night. Who can face the terrible Count Laster, the noted and fearsome mighty spellcaster? None stand a chance against him. My hopes for escape are dim. Thus ended pure Annabel Lee's sad tale, her eyes full of tears, her face oh so pale. The villagers heard her story, and how they were flustered. The men shook their tools in anger, and then they all blustered. We will not allow this crime, we all shall muster. We shall polish our knives and make sure they've luster. We shall defend, protect you to the very last, till the last knife is sheathed, till the last die is cast. Fools! A voice cried out. Everyone turned at the shout. And who did they see? 'Twas the brothers Lee. Annabel Lee cried, "My brothers, you have returned. Thank goodness, how glad I am. I felt I'd been spurned." Samson, Solomon, and Ezekiel Lee were proud and strong, as young men should be. The brothers stepped forward, parting the crowd. Samson the eldest spoke with clear voice, loud, "Fools! Do you know at what you try to pretend, when you say that our dear sister you shall defend? Count Laster has been known to destroy entire towns. Do you think he'll meet you with only meek little frowns? You know nothing of his powers. He'll come attack in midnight hours, and though you try to be so stout, he'll surely wipe all of you out. Do not risk your children, mothers, and wives. Do not risk your village, your land, your lives. Do not cause pain in those of your loved ones. Who'll lose you as fathers, brothers, and sons? Let this then be our family affair, or else too many shall too ill fare." So spoke Samson, his voice bellowing and strong. They all listened, and they knew he was not wrong. Then someone cried, "Well, then don't stay another day. If we cannot fight, then you should all run away." Annabel Lee replied, "No, that won't succeed. Count Laster will hunt us down in his greed, then he will for all your contribution wipe out this village in retribution." Solomon Lee then spoke, "She's right. There's no way to win this fight. Rather you go back to your houses, back to the arms of your spouses. Tomorrow, bury us in our tombs, for we will have met our dooms, making a desperate stand against the vampire's hand. If our sister does not want to be the Count's wife, she may end up having to take her own life, unless the gods up on their pinnacle decide to send down for us a miracle." The people were upset. They gave out a cry. "Is there really nothing for you to do but die?" "Silence!" suddenly cried Ezekiel Lee. "I hear something. What could it be?" Everyone felt his or her attention veer, his or her attention diverted to an ear dash. Their ears strained, their necks craned, so that they would be able to hear, if there was anything rather queer. Then they heard with relative ease the sound of humming upon the breeze, a hum to a tune of hopeful mode, coming at them from down the road. Also there was the clip-clop sound of a horse's hoof upon the ground. All whispers of conversation died down. They knew someone was entering their town. A horseman was coming down the road, solemn and grim, wearing a dark cape, and wearing a hat broad of brim. The horse upon which he rode was as dark as the night. The horse had 2 eyes flashing red, ready for a fight. The black-clothed rider had strong shoulders broad, though his bearing and aura were of a gentleman lord. Hanging at the horseman's side was a mighty sword, a blade of strength and courage wherever it warred. Underneath his hat the man's face was obscured, though he seemed a man who had much endured. The horse lazily trotted along, ignoring the village throng, though her red eyes did flash, as though asking for a clash. Then Samson Lee angrily cried out to him, "You, stranger, I know not who you are, but I'd be willing to wager that you serve the vampire master of yonder castle of Aster." The 3 brothers Lee stepped forth angrily and stood in the way of the stranger, ready to face some oncoming danger. The 3 stood ready, but alone. The rest watched, like statues of stone. "If you want to take our dear Annabel Lee," cried Samson, "you'll have to get past us 3. The traveler stopped. The brothers blocked his way, but the man was unperturbed and did nothing say. His face was still hidden. He continued to hum, and the brothers Lee were struck rather dumb. Solomon then asked, "Hey, are you friend or foe? Answer us, or else it shall be to your woe. We'll give you our best, and then some." But there was no answer, except for a hum, and the horse snorted as if in derision at Solomon's attempt at imposition. Ezekiel then shouted, "Well, we have you outed. You are not a friend, so now meet your end." The 3 brothers then hollered a battle cry and charged forward, ready to deal death or die, each brother ready with a knife, each of them ready for the strife. Together they charged at him, ready to do deeds rather grim. The rider did not react, except to raise his arm, and to quickly recite some sort of charm. Then from his hand flew a magic bolt. That gave the brothers a mighty jolt. They stopped to stare, as they became aware that the bolt landed right in front of their feet. They really were not sure how this magic to meet. Thus bewildered, the 3 watched warily, as the horseman dismounted unconcernedly, and then he faced the 3, but without unsheathing his sword. He did not look at them. He even yawned as if he were bored. The three brothers looked at each other, not sure what to think or what to wonder. But then by signs of reassuring nods, they decided once more to chance the odds. Though the three were armed and hoped to make him harmed, the traveler still did not unsheath his sword, as he was charged by that threesome of a horde. Instead, with various movements of his wrist, a sidestep here, and there the occasional fist, and a few kicks each as quick as a dart, he met them with bare-handed martial art. The three brothers found that their attacks ended up with them landing on their backs, and they found themselves disarmed too. How that happened they had not a clue. The three inspected themselves from tip to toe, but no real injuries were inflicted by their foe, though they certainly looked rough after the scuffle. They noticed the traveler's clothes had barely a ruffle, and though he had the victor's part, due to his fantastic martial art, he did not press forward to finish the battle's course. Instead, having made a point, he remounted his horse. Thus were the brothers Lee soundly defeated. The brothers did not want this battle repeated. Solomon thoughtfully rubbed his aching back and then said, "If you are one of Lasta's men, then we should all be dead. Lasta's servants are known to love the slaughter. Lasta's servants are known to give no quarter. We are fools to have made this mistake. I only hope that you our apologies will take." But the stranger made no reply, though his horse did give a little sigh. The three let the stranger carry on down the road. The rider hummed that tune of hopeful mode. The traveler and the horse went past, as if the village had seen of them the last. But Annabel Lee would not let that be, and she cried to the stranger, "Please, sir, won't you pause? I apologize that we broke hospitality's laws. But you see here, we are living in fear of a vampire lord, the Count Lasta, much abhorred. Against my wishes he would make me his wife. I know not what to do, I fear for my life. There are none of us here who can match his might. What can we do but resign ourselves to the blight? But from what I've seen, you have much power. Could you be the one we need in this bleakest hour? I cannot give much in payment, except to feed you well, and what few valuables I own for gold I will sell, and that gold I shall give you, and a roof I can give too. But at least just pause enough to listen to my speech, so that I have a chance to tell you my story, I beseech." The traveler stopped at her call and turned to hear, to listen to her tale of woe, her tale of fear. He lifted the brim of his hat, thus showing his face. All the ladies felt their hearts flutter into outer space. For the traveler had a beautiful, handsome face, with features like that of some noble ancient race, and his eyes harbored no spiteful horridness, for they clearly showed a soul full of kindness. But they also shone like the eyes of a kingly lion. They were eyes of courage, showing a will of iron. Even the men were somewhat smitten. Admiration was on their faces written. The black-clothed traveler looked straight into Annabel's eyes. She became speechless, for his eyes were beautiful and wise. The traveler dismounted his horse and walked towards her. The villagers made way for the noble goodly sir. In front of Annabel Lee he bowed, and then he spoke. "Who has dared in your heart to fear so stoke? Fear not, I will not let him take you, and the day he tries, that day he'll rue. Tell me your tale and your name, then I'll help you, my fair dame. My only condition that you do not ask for my name, nor should you inquire as to from where I came. These are the only terms I ask for. Gold and such things I do not care for." "What kind of weird deal is that? What is your strange game?" cried the brothers Lee. "Why should we not know your name?" But Annabel Lee said, "I don't care. Why should it matter? It doesn't bother me. Why feed gossiping chatter? Whatever your name, from wherever you came, it is not more frightening than that name Laster, nor so terrifying a place such as Castle Aster. I'm already in reach of a villain's clutch. If you are a villain too, that won't mean much. But when I look at you, I feel relief, and I am filled with the sincere belief that you are a man of virtue, a man that is goodly and true. Come inside, good sir, rest your feet, and let me make you something to eat. And brothers, Take his horse to our stable, let her rest and eat too under its gable. And thus our nameless hero became employed in the service of Annabel, who was overjoyed. It would certainly not be non sequitur to say she had faith in her new protector, but at this junction of our heroic tale, our story needs to another direction sail, for we must now turn to the story of Vampire Dundee. What happened when he returned to the castle? Let us see. After speaking with Annabel Lee, Dundee flew back home. His bat wings flapped him through a window in the castle's dome. Changing back to humanoid form, he went to his father's throne, whereupon the Count was waiting, sitting and brooding alone. Count Laster was angry. Count Laster was mad. His eyes were fierce, with no mercy to be had. All in all, his face looked very grim. His son Dundee bowed before him. "Father, I have returned," bowing Dundee did say. "I told Annabel that she will be yours in a day." "I regret that I listened to you," said his father. "I wish that I had listened to someone another. You managed a conversation clever and witty, to have so convinced me with your foolish pity, to give that little woman an entire day, just so that she can have her little say. You have been whining at me so oft, that you are starting to make me soft. Your playing the sage has filled me with rage. I should have taken that girl the moment I felt lust. I should have got that girl the moment I felt I must. Dundee, you soft, pathetic little thing, so corrupted by your mother's doting, that you still only filthy pig's blood drink, because you think it evil for your teeth to sink into a man's neck and so kill him in the process. Vampire society considers you to be a regress, some sort of primitive, and they are all agog. That you would drink the blood of a hog, just because you were told by your mother that we should all respect one another. When are you going to drink human blood? Do you intend to always be a vampire dud? Your morality gets in the way of good vampiring. I find myself a different type of son desiring. This night has been torturing, just because of your hampering. I wanted to send the wolves to get that wretched girl, but the night is almost over. Dawn is about to unfurl. I shall just have to wait for the end of today, before that woman is spirited away. Because of you, idiot Dundee, I have to delay. Deprived I am of my pleasure and my play. I'm deprived of my human toy. Ah, get away from me, boy. You are a blight. Get out of my sight! In his anger, Count Laster threw a magic fireball that his son had to sidestep, else on Dundee would it fall. Dundee moved fast and avoided the blast. The fireball made a big, ugly scorch mark on the floor. Whoever had to clean that scorch would have quite a chore. Dundee was afraid of his vampire father's rage. Dundee decided, as actors say, to exit the stage. He quickly ran off before his father had the chance to fire at him another deadly magic lance, now that he was done. Chasing off his son, Count Laster to himself thought, "That boy will amount to naught, just like his whore of a wretched mother, who hated me so much she took a lover who gave her gentleness while I was always amiss. When I finally discovered her infidelity, I murdered her and her lover immediately. Then I told Dundee some or other lies. But I'm beginning my own son to despise. I should have murdered him like I murdered his mother. Maybe I should take his life's flame and make it smother. But no, killing my own son would be crude. In any case, I'm not in the mood." Count Laster then gave a yawn, for night was ending with the dawn. "Time to go to sleep," he said, and with that, he went to bed. Dundee, in the meanwhile, after escaping his father, was in his room staring at a picture of his mother. But so tired was he, that he fell asleep, in his rest. He still clutched his dear mother's picture to his chest. Then he had a dream that his mother was still alive, and telling him of good and how honor can thrive. "Son," she said, "don't do an evil, just because it's small. You may think it is of no consequence, but it shall appall. For as a bucket can be filled with water drop by drop, so seeds of bad conduct give rise to a bad karmic crop. Besides, small beginnings often lead to great endings. Yes, small deeds can lead to disproportionate endings. Some things cause more trouble than they are worth, so avoid doing evil, and live in peace on this earth. Son, don't avoid a good deed. just because it is small, and you think it not worth doing, for it won't count at all. For as a bucket can be filled with water drop by drop, so seeds of good conduct give rise to a good karmic crop. Besides, small beginnings often lead to great endings. Yes, small deeds can lead to disproportionate blessings. Some good deeds cause greater effects than intended. So my son, do good deeds, that this world may be mended. Mother! In his sleep Dundee suddenly spoke, and from his dreams he suddenly awoke. Oh dear, he said to himself, despondent, as the dream of his mother, so resplendent, reluctantly faded from his mind and heart. Mother, why did you have to from us part? Why did that beast of a vampire hunter kill you? It feels like he drove a stake through my heart too. Did that man have a heart of stone? To leave me and my father so alone? Did he delight in the delinquency of tearing apart my family? And father, I think, misses you too, although showing it he would never do. He is, after all, a man who never shows his feeling, but under his mask, I'm sure he is a kind being. The day passed, the sun rose and came and went, and daylight ran back too from wherever it was sent. The vampires preferred the night to the day, so Dundee awoke then to do what he may. Not knowing that during the day that had transpired, a hero in Annabel Lee's service had been hired. Dundee was first called to his father's throne, to hear his father speak in the sternest of tone. My son, I apologize for my anger yesternight. After all, this evening you'll bring me my delight. A little patience was all that was needed. There was no need for discord to be seated. Now go, finish what yesternight was by us begun. Fetch me my prize, and prove to me you're a worthy son. After this speech, Dundee as a bat did fly, flapping his way through the starlit sky, towards the home of Annabel Lee, eventually flapping down her chimney. He then transformed back to human shape, and with a flourish of his bright scarlet cape, he walked into the bedroom of Annabel Lee, where in darkness her sleeping body he could see. Dundee then said, Come, my dear Annabel Lee. It's time now, my father is expecting thee. Dundee then pulled off the sheet, but there was no one to meet. He dropped down his jaw, for in the dark all that he saw was a bunch of fluffy pillows arranged to deceive, so it looked like a body, so one would perceive. Did you find what you were looking for? Said a voice, echoing from behind the door. Dundee ran out to find the voice's source. Back to the living room ran his course. Where are you? Cried Dundee, standing in the dark, his ears for any suspicious sounds ready to hark. Suddenly he heard the sound of a match striking, and a small fire burst forth, an oil lamp lighting. In the glow of the lamp, what did the vampire see? Who was this unexpected one, now facing Dundee? Upon the table was a black hat, broad of brim. Sitting by it was a man clothed black and grim. Dundee stepped forward a pace, to look into the man's noble face. Dundee noted that the man had no fear in his eye. What man was this to be fearless with a vampire nigh? For vampires are strong. Their supernatural strength is a topic that can be discussed at quite some length. Yet this man seemed to care not, though he faced danger on the spot. I don't know who you are, but you are a fool, said Dundee, for don't you know, as a general rule, when a mere human attempts to with a vampire vie, the human is always the one that is going to die. Dundee then with a supernatural leap crossed the room with a flying sweep, reaching out with his angry hands to tear his foe into ugly strands. But our nameless hero leapt up too. He grabbed Dundee's hands with a grip strong and true. To break that grip, Dundee was not able, and him and the hero landed on the table. Dundee tore himself free, then a fist fight ensued. Right there on the table they carried out their feud. But though Dundee threw many punches, the hero expertly countered the many lunges, with the kind of martial skill that would astound. They fought on the table, going round and round, the hero's hat in the middle of it all. They fought and fought, each trying hard not to fall. The hat was almost trampled in the fight. No one cared. But though the kicks were flying, the hat was spared. Dundee faced the strongest opponent he had ever met. His arms were getting tired, his face was drenched in sweat. But the nameless hero looked so at ease. He wasn't sweaty, and he smiled as if to tease. Finally, from an unexpected blow, off the table did Dundee flying go. He landed by the fireplace, but caught his breath a space and said, "What kind of a man are you? Is this a monster or a god in my view? No ordinary man can vie with a vampire to be able to escape a fate ghastly and dire. You are something else entirely, and though it may seem cowardly, it is best that I should retreat, before I the dire fate should meet." Dundee stepped back a pace, right into the fireplace. His body quickly morphed into a reddish bat. Then he was up the chimney with a hasty scat. The nameless hero followed in a few seconds flat, stopping only to pick up his trusty black hat. Oh, he wanted to take the chase. So out the house he did race. The nameless traveler looked into the starry sky, searching for where perhaps the vampire bat did fly, and there silhouetted by moonlight ray, he saw Dundee flapping quickly away. He put his fingers to his mouth, gave a shrill whistle. Galloping came his horse, over briar and thistle. Was there ever a more loyal, trustworthy steed, always ready for the master's whistle to heed? Ready to go forth and adventure dare? Ready for any danger? Such was this mare. The horse did not stop, but kept on galloping. The traveler jumped up, magically leaping, landing in the saddle, with hardly a hassle. Then he grabbed on the rein. That was by the horse's mane. And he cried, "Hurrah! Hurrah! My friend, let's go forth with bravura." The brothers Lee, awakened by all the noise, had by now come out armed in battle poise, only to watch as the hero forth rode. "Come, let us our noble horses load," cried the eldest Solomon Lee, "and we shall join the chase, we three." However, Dundee quickly put on the distance, and the hero had to, with some reluctance, slow his horse down, near the edge of town. But though the hero and his steed had lost the race, yet they knew where was Dundee's finishing place. Said the hero to his steed, "I feel the hand of fate. The night is not over. Castle Astor does await." With an agreeing neigh, the horse pushed on the way. Galloping, galloping, where were they headed? Towards their foe in his castle so dreaded. Dundee meanwhile had to tell his father the tale, of how because of a man his mission did fail. His father cried out, "By all that is bloody with gore, get out of here, I don't want to see you any more. You foolish brat, you foolish boy, you foolish everything. While you stand before me, I wish your scrawny neck to wring." Roaring out his disgusted rage in a voice mad and hoarse, Count Laster threw from his hands a mighty magic force. It swept Dundee off his feet, upwards he flew rather fleet, until his head hit the ceiling. After which down he went reeling, landing on his face hard upon the floor, his nose broken, his mouth spitting out some gore. Dundee quickly rose up, his hand staunching his bloodied face. Fearing his father's fury, he quickly ran from the place. Count Laster was left alone, sitting brooding on his throne. Then, with his voice so proud, he called booming and loud, for his fearsome werewolf servants too, always his bidding ready to do. Like vampires, werewolves can also change, though of shapes they had a slightly wider range. Of shapes to choose they have three. What are these? Let us see dash. They can make themselves look like men, pretending to be human, wandering in a wen. Unfortunately, they are unable to change their ears. So, if being found out is one of his fears, the stealthy werewolf will his ears have to hide, often wearing a great big hat, pushing his ears inside. Otherwise, when imitating the human form, it's difficult to see their otherwise from the norm. Then they can take the wolf's animal form, running in packs, howling like a storm. Wild and proud and fierce and beautiful they are then, and twice as dangerous to mere ordinary men. Not once has sword had to meet a paw, only to see sword defeated by the claw. Lastly, they can take a form, half wolf, half man. The most dangerous form of the werewolf clan. With the strength of a beast as well as being tall, the sheer size will make a brave man's heart go pall. When they rise up like this, howling a werewolf's call, fear, fear, fear them. For like reeds warriors will fall. Few have seen this werewolf form, and lived their tales then to tell, of great werewolves like demons straight from the deep depths of hell. "Gunder and Bunder!" cried Count Laster. "Come now to me!" cried their master. The two werewolf brothers quickly came. as soon as each heard the calling of his name. Standing before Count Laster's seat, they were ready to do any feat. Their master called, "Gunder and Bunder, I've been denied my rightful plunder. Some mere man has insulted me, and denied me my wife Annabel Lee. Now go forth and tear that man asunder, and don't you come back unless with my plunder." So running they went forth, Gunder and Bunder, all the while howling with howls like thunder. Through the castle gate, and down the mountain road, the full moon like a lantern shining as a goad, down the craggy mountain path into the forest below, amongst the silent midnight trees they hunted for their foe. As the werewolves raced forward for the kill, Bunder suddenly came to a standstill. "Oh, brother," cried Bunder. "Yes, brother?" asked Gunder. "There is something funny in the air," said Bunder. "Brother, you are right, I sniff it too," said Gunder. "Is the faint scent of our quarry?" asked Bunder. "It must be the scent of our quarry," replied Gunder. "Follow it, follow it, follow the scent." And the wolves ran, panting as they went. The moon shone bright, its light danced in the forest. But down from the mountain came enveloping mist. Though the nameless hero could not see far ahead, still he galloped on, startling night creatures who fled. But his steed suddenly slowed. Then she stopped to stare, her wary eyes peering into the foggy air. From the mist, two men came out, both of them hairy and stout, wearing gentlemanly suits with bow ties and top hats and monocles in their eyes. "Good evening," the gentleman said. "How do you do?" "Good evening," our hero replied. "I do good and true." "Pleased to make your acquaintance," the two hairy men said, each raising his hat, exposing big wolf ears on each head. "Excuse us for asking, we are eager for knowing. Could you tell us, kind sir, where are you going?" Replied our nameless hero, seated upon his mount. "I ride forth to the castle Astor, home of the Count, where I shall have to intrude upon his person. I hope, however, that his fate shall not worsen, for either he must listen and do what is right, or else will have to battle upon this misty night." Gunder and Bunder then laughed with a howl. Gunder and Bunder then declared with a growl, "We have come howling from the gates of Astor. We have come growling on orders of Count Laster. We have been sent to tear a man asunder, for this man denied the Count his plunder. Your bones tonight shall rest 6 feet under, for you're that man, and we are Gunder and Bunder." Putting away their monocles, they began to transform. In a few seconds, they were huge beasts, howling up a storm. Monstrous were their eyes, monstrous were their paws, and between their gaping teeth, monstrous were their maws. Who could but think that our hero was a lost cause? For who could withstand those dreadful sharp claws? But did our nameless traveler show any fear? Was there any terror in those eyes that did peer? Peering under the brim of his hat, he grinned a light grin right where he sat. The horse beneath him glared her red eyes so, flashing defiance, despising the foe. The two werewolves leapt forward, hungry for the fight, but our hero called out, and from his hand came a light. As the magic spell took hold, lightning fell down, electrifying the air, hitting Bunder's crown. Bunder dropped back with a yelp, and like some helpless whelp, cried out in pain, shaking his mane, but the lightning missed Gunder. The wolf jumped ahead, his hair bristling, ready to make our hero dead. Then our hero from his saddle leapt, while his horse out of the way quickly stepped, so that Gunder clawed at empty air. Then the wolf up to the sky did stare, for our hero was using magic to fly. His silhouette by the treetops Gunder did spy. "You'll not escape me so easily," Gunder did cry, and a heavy boulder from the ground he did pry, and with his incredible werewolf power, threw the stone into our hero's treetop bower. Our hero deftly turned to the side, so that the stone missed him wide. The stone flew into an innocent tree trunk, shattering the tree with a deafening thunk, so that bits of the trunk and leaves and branches rained down fast and mad with frightening lunges. In the noise and debris of all this, Gunder the attack of our hero did miss, for the nameless one flew down with sword out to strike. Diving down at speed, Gunder's heart with sword he did spike. Gunder roared with a terrible cry, pain flashed furiously in his wolfish eye, As he fell down and on the ground, then did lie, he gave out something that might have been a sigh. And that was how the werewolf Gunder did die, after he with a great hero attempted to vie. "My brother!" cried Bunder in fury and rage. For vengeance he leapt forth to battle engage, but from behind he was mightily kicked by a hoof. For our hero's steed kept not from battle aloof, but had crept up behind to start an attack, by kicking Bunder in the small of his back. Forward stumbled the werewolf Bunder, every step a wobbling blunder. Too late he saw the sword coming under, the blade that his belly would tear asunder. Down the wolf fell with a howl like thunder. With another blow, it was the end of Bunder. And so failed Gunder and Bunder our hero to kill. They were too impetuous, although brave warriors still. Yet who can overcome our nameless hero's great skill? For his heart is full of valor, and iron is his will. The traveller cleaned his sword as a matter of course. Then lithely the traveller sprang back on his horse. "Ride, boldly ride," the hero cried. "Ride on to the castle of Aster." And they rode, faster and faster, onward to a reckoning with evil Count Lasta, that fearsome and terrifying vampire master. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the mist-shrouded forest, the brothers Lee in the darkness the road had missed, and now were wandering hopelessly lost, the midnight air biting with a chilly frost. "Have we not been here before?" asked the eldest, Solomon. "Are we going in a circle in our wandering on? Have I not seen that rock, that tree, that branch? The moonlight is making everything go blanche, so that there are no features to distinguish, especially since our torch did extinguish. In our haste we forgot to bring torches more, even though at home we have so many in store," said Samson Lee, sighing wearily. But then Ezekiel cried out suddenly, "What? Who?" For from out the darkness came a ghostly "Ho!" Cold terror came over the three. In fear they trembled, the brothers Lee. Then they saw two eyes glowing in the night air, large and horrible, fixed in a demonic stare. "Run!" Samson cried, and their horses went. Fleeing they rode, past branches that rent, their clothes and faces scratched, by branches and leaves that latched. But in the dark they had left behind, what do you think there was to find? Another hue came from those eyes ghostly. They belonged to an owl feeling rather morosely. Up flew away this owl through the moonlight. To think that this bird could give such a fright. But to return to our hero. In his riding, where did he go? Up the craggy mountain path that led to Castle Aster, up to the very gates of the home of the Count Lasta. The gates were huge and tall, and locked securely, able to withstand an army's battering surely. Said the hero to his horse, "My dear faithful friend, wait here a while, for over this wall I must wend. Don't worry about me whether things will get rough, just be patient and you'll find I'll be back soon enough." The horse gave a sad little neigh, as if, "Don't leave me," to say, but otherwise obeyed her master without question. She would wait for the end of her master's mission. The nameless traveller looked at the castle wall, at the ramparts that towered ever so tall, and with magic he began to run up that wall. Trusting his power, not fearing to fall, he run lightly along, up higher and higher, till over the rampart he jumped, our mystical flyer. Once on the other side he floated down gently, landing on his feet, touching the ground softly. Count Laster was on his throne, waiting patiently, for his servants too to bring him Annabel Lee. He was listening for echoes of howls like thunder, that would precede the return of Gunder and Bunder, but the doors to his hallway opened unexpectedly. The nameless traveller stepped through unhurriedly. Count Laster was first surprised, then gave chuckles. He made a menacing fist, and crackle went his knuckles. "Now what is this that I see with my eye? A man with an overwhelming desire to die. Who is this fool that dares before me come, to be reduced by me into a speck of crumb?" Our hero took of his hat and bowed in greeting. "Hail, Lord Count, I take pleasure in this meeting. However, I'm afraid I shall have to take some blame, for I can't, for varied reasons, reveal to you my name. Forgive this, for it might seem a trifle rude. To be without a name is perhaps something crude." The Count laughed. "It shall be a pleasure. killing someone with bravado in such measure. But though it be spurious, I am rather curious. You must tell me, just before you will die, the reasons for which you came here. Tell my why. Our hero stood tall and straightened his hat, and with firm voice spoke to the Count where he sat. For 2 reasons I come to before you now stand. The first is to ask you to stop terrorizing this land, and as for Annabel Lee, I ask you to leave her be. The second reason is the one that brought me here, traveling along, past oceans wide and mountains sheer. For rumors tell that you're in league with Mordecai, the great witch king that rules on the swamps of Oronai. Of his schemes and his plans I would like to know, of why he gathers armies by those swamps of woe. You have taught him spells and sent him gold, and messengers go forth and back, so I'm told. To which Count Laster replied, Who are you, that you would know so much of what I do? Thank you for coming, thus your life as a gift to me give. It saves me bother, for you're too dangerous to let live. But since you are about to die, I see no reason why I should lie. And I shall tell you the story of our great coming glory. Know then that in the depths of the gloom, in the forgotten caverns of his tomb, lies sleeping and waiting the demon god Uzum, waiting for the chance for a darkness to bloom, that he may rise up and bring men to doom, and as lord and ruler over them loom, and we shall be there, as his army of despair, and in the world's darkest hour, it is we who shall have the power. For rulership is the most pleasant of things, and as victors we shall stride the earth as kings, at the head of our hosts, our army of doom. We shall battle for the glory of the dark god Uzum. But I grow weary, enough of this talk. It's time for the hunter his prey to now stalk. From Count Laster's hand came a powerful blast, a magical bolt bright with power and flying fast, heading straight for our hero. But he was not afraid. With quick reflex he pulled out his blade and struck out at the bolt as it made its way. So in a corner fell harmlessly the ray, giving off a bright and loud blast. Such power harnessed in a spell cast. Our hero was unharmed, his sword hummed with magic, his skill and his weapon had saved him from fates tragic. Count Laster, heed, if you will, my advice, said our hero. Desist from attack, or pay heavy price. You wretch, the vampire cried, you dare toy with me? Let's see how cocky after this you shall be. Count Laster stood up, his hands glowed red with magic power, his eyes filled with rage, his face twisted into a lour. Cursing our hero, he raised up his arms, reciting the words of dread fearful charms. Red lightning crackled along each arm. As the vampire prepared our hero to harm, a magic orb above him came into being, but its existence was only but fleeting. The orb was released with a powerful boom. That echoed through each and every castle room. The red-colored orb had exploded its form. The result was a massive red lightning storm, and all that power that was then revealed was all of the Count's. All of it he did wield, and when he pointed his hand towards our hero, all that red lightning towards our hero did go. But with arms outstretched to catch, the hero prepared the storm to match. With his 2 bold hands he caught the huge storm as if a ball. The force pushed him back a bit, but such a hero cannot fall. He threw the storm right back at the spellcaster, and suddenly, overwhelmed, was the vampire Laster. He fell backwards into his seat, and struggling to avoid defeat. He held the storm back, with sweat on his furious brow, rage in his eyes, and muttered curses that he did vow. With a cry of power the storm off himself he threw, and to the side of the room the lightning then flew, with a loud blast and a bright red flash. Into the wall the lightning did crash. "You will die!" cried the Count, driven insane by rage, and a terrible power summoned up the mage. The Count was covered in an aura like fire, readying to give our hero something dire. Unwilling to give in, for he was so dour, he threw a bolt of incredible power. But at the same time our hero threw his sword. The blade cut through the bolt as if it were a cord. Shattering the bolt as if it were nothing, the sword cut through, the blade gently singing, and pushed on by our hero's magic will. The sword kept flying forward still, and so the sword became a deadly flying dart. It flew straight and true into the vampire's heart. Count Laster's mouth gurgled with blood, as his knees fell to the ground with a thud. With shock he gazed at the blade that impaled his dark heart, that had so easily overcome his fierce magic art. Though the vampire knew he was about die, he refused to give in, and would continue to vie. But from a side door came a look of terror, for Dundee had come, his eyes sunken with horror. He had come to find out what was the noise. Now he stood there, now was shaken his poise. Unable to think, unable to speak, his heart was weary and became weak. With a great cry, Count Laster pulled out the blade. Blood spurted from his heart, a great puddle it made. The Count threw the sword to its owner back, hoping that it would serve as a counterattack. But our hero magically caught the sword in the air. So easily had he caught it, as if without a care. "Count Laster," our hero cried, "you do not have to die. If you'd only desist, we can magic healing try." But possessed was the Count by a vengeful muse. He would rather die than ever let himself lose. With words short and terse, he muttered a suicidal curse. The traveler recognized the spell which was seething and cried, "Stop! Do you know what spell you are weaving? You will bring the castle down on us, you hear. I care not for myself, but you'll make this your son's bier. If you care at all for the life of your son, don't put him in danger, and leave your spell undone." But all the vampire count did was to shout, "Die!" and he released the spell with desperate cry. At first there was nothing, but then a low rumble. Then the castle shook and began to crumble. A great piece of stone was falling over Dundee. Dundee was too mesmerized to notice or flee. Our hero from his hand threw a magic bolt. That broke that stone with a powerful jolt, so that only debris fell upon Dundee. Coated with dust, Dundee awoke from his reverie, and with a heart full of sorrows, for all his orphan tomorrows, he turned his gaze upon the traveler, then uttered the cry, "Murderer!" Full of anguished hate were Dundee's mad eyes. Forever our hero he would now despise. Forward he ran to battle with the Nameless One, not caring if he lost, not caring if he won. Towards our hero ran his path, fired by an orphan's wrath, his heart by now seething with rage. Forward he charged, to battle engage, but a huge piece of masonry fell between them. Dundee jumped back, so a rock the battle did stem. The Count Laster was laughing, though near his death. The castle was falling, as he laughed with his last breath. Then beneath the falling rocks was buried the Count Laster, an end to the evil reign of that dreaded spellcaster. Amidst the falling rubble, there was only one way out. To go anywhere but upwards was to invite a rout. Our hero jumped with a magical leap, and in order his velocity to keep, he used as stepping stones the falling debris, and jumped from rock to rock further up to be. "Murderer, come back!" cried the vampire Dundee. Onto the stones he jumped, chasing his enemy. As their paths crossed, jumping their way upwards, they battled in the mid-air like some crazy birds. Dundee attacked with fury, even while dodging his way, his fists hungry for battle, his words eager to inveigh. The nameless traveler took it all into his stride, easily deflecting Dundee's attacks as he vied, away the fighting subtly directing, from stones that were on Dundee descending, and thus protecting Dundee even while battling, and dodging the debris and rocks that came down rattling. Then there were no more rocks to jump from suddenly. The hero and the vampire were over the debris. For a moment they hovered in the air, and then down they fell, down went the pair, all the while battling still as they downwards tumbled, and descended back into the castle that crumbled. The collapse of the castle sent up a great cloud of smoke. In that dense cloud of dust, the battle for a moment broke, for the two fighters could not see each other, and did choke. Yet Dundee his flames of vengeance did not fail to stoke, and would still for revenge the fighting continue, even while blinded with that dust-clouded hue. But the dust settled, and in the moonlight, atop the ruins of Castle Aster, went on the fight. Leaping from broken column to tumbled wall, Dundee kept attacking, giving it his all. Over the collapsed hallways, and remains of crumbled doorways, they fought barehanded, and our hero his sword sheathed kept. He did not need to win, as from place to place they leapt, and so the fight went on, for several hours, until Dundee was spent at the end of his powers. He fell down, for he'd no more strength to stand, and asked, "I suppose now I shall die by your hand?" But our noble hero stood near his foe, not drawing his sword to give a killing blow. He said, "I see all the good that is in your heart. I cannot blame you for playing the loyal son's part. For what would become of society if there were no such thing as filial piety? Dundee, I cannot kill you, for indeed this is true. You have a compassionate heart, full of virtue. Your father did not deserve a son like you." "Do not insult my father," cried Dundee. He leapt, trying for one more attack, but our hero sidestepped. Clawing the ground in frustration and pain, from exhaustion, Dundee fell down again. For a while they stayed like that, not moving, saying nothing, the silence only broken by a breeze gently ruffling. The night was almost over, the moon was almost set, and dawn slowly rose there where the earth and sun had met. Then the nameless traveler spoke. "I know of sunlight, a poison to your kind, which is why you wake at night. You cannot stay out in this bleak open here. Use your last strength to get to a cave somewhere near." To which Dundee replied, "Know this, although now I am weak. If you spare my life, I shall still my father's vengeance seek. You destroyed my family, you destroyed my home. Now forever I'll hunt you wherever you may roam. I shall seek out those who can grant me new powers. I shall study and train into many dark midnight hours. I will not stop until I become strong enough to beat you, to fight you, to win these battles rough." With a sad face our hero said, "Do as you will, but if you follow me I fear it will be to your ill. Do not think mere threats will keep me back. I will find you, and in future renew my attack." Dundee then, with his last bit of strength, changed into a bat and flew off at length. To escape the light of day, he went up and away, flying up along the mountainside, searching for a cave in which to hide. Just before dawn's light over the land was brought, Dundee had managed to find what he sought, and in a sheltered nook he fell deep into a tired and exhausted sleep. In the morning Annabel Lee was pacing, waiting anxiously, not knowing whether her brothers would return, or if the hero had defeated that vampire stern. She was unable to be calm, and rubbed fretfully her palm. Then from out the forest came warriors three, but she could hardly say they were the brothers Lee, 3 men with clothes torn and tattered, their faces with mud all splattered, their faces numb with a dazed look, as if some great torment had them shook, as if they had survived some great battle. That had tested them to the end of their mettle. By now all the villagers had come to stare, and were all now gathering around there. The 3 brothers told a horrifying tale of how they became lost in the forest vale, stalked by lurking monsters with great big eyes, who in the dark made horrible hue-like cries, and there was an incredible thundering sound, as if a great building had crumbled to the ground. Perhaps it was the sound of a giant's roar. Never mind what it was, it shook them to the core. Then a great cloud of dust descended from the mountainside, choking them and blinding them. To add misery it plied. Finally, with sunrise, they knew which way was east, and hoping that daylight had scared off the beast, they managed to find their way back home, vowing never again to into that dark forest roam. Thank the gods, for my brothers are safe at least. But where is my hero? Did he fall prey to the beast? Where is the warrior, the one with no name? Were the words that Annabel then did exclaim. But she had no need to fear, for carried on the air was the sound of humming of a tune fine and fair. "It's him!" Annabel cried, and she ran to the sound, and sure enough, as past a corner she turned round, there was our hero, all clothed black and grim, a sword by his side, wearing a hat broad of brim. He was riding atop of his valiant steed. Her eyes flashed red, ready for a heroic deed. The nameless traveler then spoke. "Annabel, the Count Lasta is no more, and all shall be well. Fear no longer the coming of the night, nor fear the menace of a vampire's blight. In ruins now lies the castle of Asterdash. No more shall you hear of its vampire master. You are now free, and free is your village, to prosper and work in peace at your tillage. And now that my task is done, and good over evil victory has won. I must be on my way to continue my travel, always searching for evil plots to unravel. So now I'm afraid I must goodbye tell, and wish you, Annabel Lee, a happy farewell. Then the hero and his steed trotted slowly way, but Annabel ran after him so he could his name say. Half in love with him she wanted to know, what was his name? Before parting, he must go. But no matter how fast she ran, she got no nearer. Some sort of magic was keeping him from her, so that although they looked like they were at slow trot, the distance between them, though she ran, would shorten not. So she gave up the run, and on a spot stayed, as she listened to his humming begin to fade. She watched him become smaller from where she stood. "Goodbye!" she then cried, as loud as she could. And it seemed the hero heard her. For a moment he did not go further, but turned around and waved. And so Annabel Lee was saved, by this nameless traveler, brave like no one other. This, then, was the tale of the defeated vampire master, of how our hero put an end to the vile spellcaster. End of part 1. Ballad of the Nameless Traveler, by Tomek Piorkowski, a fantasy epic in rhyme. Text copyright Tomek Piorkowski, 2012.